G'day guys, you're back with MiracleMAX. Today, as you can see, I'm in the workshop. I've been working here all morning, but this afternoon I'm going to mix up the playlist just a little bit. I want to build something electronic, but it's going to be for here in the workshop. What is it? Let's have a look at it. In a recent video I repaired this BenQ monitor, but unfortunately this fella here doesn't have any speakers, so when I need to chase up something maybe via YouTube or some other video, I can't actually hear the sound. I need to have some sort of audio system set up. The computer that I'm using it with has no speaker system attached to it. The last monitor that I had on there, the one that I'm actually repairing inside, has a speaker system, and that was fantastic. But I'm still trying to work out what's wrong with that. So for now, I need a speaker system for this particular monitor. So today, what I want to do is turn this into this. For a number of years, I've had this little amplifier tucked away in my lab, assuming that, hey, one day I might use it. Well, guess what? That day is today. This is the amplifier here, and attached to it are a volume, bass and treble potentiometers. So all I need to do now is supply a power supply to it, come up with a set of speakers. I've grabbed these out of an old laptop that I disassembled, put it all together into a sound box so that I can sit it above my monitor and use that for sound for my monitor. So this is my basic concept. It's pretty rough and ready. I intend having almost like a sound bar across the top of the monitor. So I'll have these little tiny speakers that I've got out of a laptop. That fella there, and maybe not. Yep, there we go, that fella there, and that fella there. They'll sit there like that, sort of. And then I'll have my little amplifier that I've bought, that'll sit there, and then the pots, or the adjustment knobs, will sit over to one side like that. Might look a bit dicky over to one side, but I won't have room to put everything in there and make it small enough to sit on the monitor and not too heavy for the monitor to handle. I've just done some basic measurements, as you can see, just to calculate exactly what I've got to build. Of course, I've got to make sure that I've got space for the heatsink. That's a big sucker there, and I need airflow around that, as well as mounting for little standoffs. So I've given myself plenty of room to create around it so that it's not a squishy setup, and yet it should look quite nice sitting on top of the monitor. I've got this scrap piece of MDF that I'll be using, and I'm going to be using this covered side on the inside. That way I can make sure that I get good sound quality, because if I use the other side, a lot of the sound will be absorbed into this side. So I'm going to use this internally and then paint the outside. But coincidentally, look at that, spot on, hey? So that should be pretty much the right size for what we need. When you're ripping through timber, it's not unusual to find that you get what's called tear out. So to stop that tear out, you can use a simple blade to actually scribe through that, or put a line down there, and that will help reduce tear out. And it's not bad to do it on both sides. And as my old mammy used to say, measure twice, cut once. 65mm, both sides. Sweet, ready for the cut. As you can see there's virtually no tear out whatsoever. There's no chipping like there is over here. There's no chipping whatsoever, simply because I've scored it first. Excellent. So this is the basic construction of it. This is the front, top, etc. What I've had to do is buzz down this little side piece, because that's going to fit in the side here like a DOS, and I've had to take that down to 59mm. Obviously 3mm plus 3mm or 6mm, take that away from 65 is down to, was that 59. I'm also going to put end pieces in there, but also some dividers in the middle so that the speakers are fully enclosed away from the amplifier and the switching system over here. So the speakers will be in their own little box, and I haven't decided whether I'll put any holes in it to allow for more depth of sound. I don't know. Who knows? Overthinking it, Max. I've been working on a template for the speaker that needs to go in that area there. You can see it's cut quite close. You can see this little inlay here that'll fit into the timber itself, so there's really not much where it fits into, just basically on the screw holes there, and there. And so I started off with a little paper template, got that sort of sorted, and now as you can see I've outlined it. And what I ended up using for a circle was just the end of my, what's that, rubber grease, just using that there, and so I can get a nice round curve, and I'll cut that out with a jigsaw shortly. But for starters, I'm just going to cut 2 round holes here and here. That'll give me a good bite to get into the jigsaw, because sometimes when you turn with a jigsaw it's hard to get started, but if I cut a nice round circle, then I can cut it out nice and evenly, and then just file it down so that I can get a nice even fit, so it fits nice and tight. I just did a very rough cut, as you saw. I just want to see if the little speaker will fit into place, and oh, look at that, nice. Of course all this will be covered, so you won't see any of this outer housing, so keep in mind that this will be the outside of it. I'll paint it of course, and I wanted to leave that white section or the covered section inside to give it some acoustic value. Whether it works or not, I have no idea, but yeah, that's what it'll look like on the outside. Of course I'll cover it with some cloth or something that will make sure it looks good, but yeah, looking good. I've made a start gluing it together, and the front obviously is not glued as yet. I just want to get these dividers put into place, and they're okay. I'm not sure if you can see too much inside, and of course the back is only held in with masking tape at the moment. I intend leaving the back undone so that I can unscrew the back. So I'll have a couple of screws holding it into those dividers that I've shown. So screw in here and here. So there'll be 4 screws on the back, and that will give me access to all the speaker wiring, etc. It'll give me access to the pots up the front, and also the amplifier itself. Of course I'll have to drill a hole through these dividers to get my speaker wiring through to the amp itself. I've also made up these little end caps. I did that when I made up my little dividers in here as well, so that when it's all finished, signed, sealed and delivered, I can just glue that into place, the 3 sides at least, and that will finish the end off nicely. To make the speaker grill, I've chosen to use fly wire. Well, look, I'll give it a shot. I had it lying around. Like I said, I'm no DIY perks. I'm just trying to make something out of what I have lying around. So I thought, well, let's bend it up and see what we can come up with. So I've been pretty careful to make sure that I get a nice sharp, crisp edge on it, and I'm using a piece of timber to hold it all in place. We'll see how it looks when it's finished, hey? There's the basic concept there. I've covered it in just flywire aluminium stuff so it bends over okay. There's a few little whoops in there, but hopefully by the time I spray it matte black, it should get rid of it. You shouldn't be able to see any of those little imperfections in there. There's the basic layout. I've sanded it back, polished up all the holes, made sure everything was all honky-dory, and it's now ready for paint. One problem that I have with this little amplifier is its power supply input. It has a permanent fixture style input, which means you put in your wires here and that will feed the power to the little amplifier, but that's not what I want. I want to make it removable, and this little fixture here is, it's not working for me. I've proved that this is okay by hooking it directly up to a 12 volt battery and it works fine, but hey, I don't want to lug around a battery all the time. So what I've done is got myself a little power supply from eBay. It's all good, didn't cost me too much, but the problem is it has a barrel jack attached to it, and you guessed it, it won't fit into the amplifier. So how can I make this fella here fit into this connector into the soundbar frame that I've already made? I've already drilled the hole for the earphone inlet that comes in here. That's going to drive the amplifier or supply the sound for the amplifier, but as you can see, there's no room to put a connector of any sort over here, a barrel jack for instance. What I'm going to do is remove this little connector here entirely, solder a couple of wires onto the board, put this little adapter over here remotely, and then glue it into place. As you can see, there's a couple of screws to put my wiring into here. That will sit remote to the actual amplifier board itself, and hopefully that should sort out the issue. There we go, all done. I've removed this connector, flipped it around backwards, soldered it back on the board, and then put my wires in from behind so that my back cover will sit nice and flush against there. And as you can see, I've got a remote connector here for my power jack, and I can just pop him in there and then put it into the wall socket. So here we are, we're all painted. I've decided to go with a matte black finish simply because it won't stand out as much on top of the monitor. Here's our back panel, and you can see I've drilled that second hole for the power supply to go into. Front panel is all done as well, ready to go. I've also made up a speaker grill, which is made out of a fly-wire screen off of a window. Hopefully it should look okay. Well, time to assemble it. Well, it's all together, well, the front at least. You can see that I've inserted the speakers, the laptop speakers in the side. I've got the grill on there, as you can see. It's a little bit dented, but it's not too bad. And if you have a close look, you can see the three knobs there, volume, treble and bass. So that's the front done. And that's the back all together. As you can see, I've tried to keep the wiring as tidy as possible, but I do have to leave a certain amount of length there to allow for pulling it apart. This is the back all done, as you can see, and that's where the power supply goes in. Mrs. Miracle suggested that I don't use hot glue, but I use liquid nails, and that's what I've done there. I'm just waiting for it to dry overnight, and it should be all good. Then of course the little power supply should be plugged in, and then it should be all set to go. Well, give it 24 hours to dry. I can assemble the rest and then give it a try. Now that it's together, all I have to do is mount it and see how it performs. So, itty bitty soundbar, all done. I'm the first to admit that I'm no DIY perks. Alright, I'll put his link in the description below. Sheesh. But hey, if this little thing works how I want it to, what difference does it make? Let's see what it can do. After all that effort, does it work? Let's check it out. G'day guys, I'm MiracleMAX. Welcome to the channel. You're probably thinking to yourself right now. Keep in mind that it's only a small little amp. It's only about 100 watt, I believe. But for a monitor speaker, it's all good. Facts that you may not know. I'm an automotive technician with over 34 years of experience. And I've been teaching at technical colleges like this one for well over 12 years. But I still work part-time in industry in my own little automotive workshop. I write technical manuals as well as trade magazines. Seems to work okay, I'm thinking. I've been a certified auto electrician for over 28 years. So hopefully it's not too horrendous. It does the job nicely, it looks sleek, it looks flat, and it's a good use of old laptop speakers and bits and pieces that I've managed to assemble together. It's not really an electronics design as such, it's more of an assembly. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this little crossover between the workshop and the electronics lab, being able to combine some things and to be able to recycle some old computer parts. If you did enjoy this video and you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Give it a like and feel free to comment down below. And of course, hey, don't forget about that notification bell. You don't want to miss any future videos. So until next time guys, this is MiracleMAX signing off. I will catch you later.